So I am Monica, and for those of you that don't know me, my name is Monica Grace, and I am an author as well as a publisher that I am about to release 3 books. One is called The Unfolding, which is a story of how my life has been unfolding and how God spoke to me throughout the years through dreams, revelatory dreams, showing me things that I didn't know, taking me on this exciting journey. And it was a journey of how I found God, and because I wasn't raised in a Christian family, and how I came to know Him, and then got married, and was just doing things as I was praying and seeking God's guidance, just letting Him lead me, not letting my will be done, but allowing God to let His will be done. And so the book takes you on this whole journey. But I also wrote a book about inner healing, and I had a 15-year marriage, 21 years together. My ex-husband and I actually came to the Lord together like a day apart, so I actually owe my salvation to him and to some brothers, Israel and Miguel, that were praying and fasting for us to come to accept Christ. And so I'll forever be grateful, and I do mention them in my book called The Unfolding. But anyway, throughout life, I grew up as a mixed child. I am Arab and Black, Palestinian actually. My mom's from Jordan. I'm Palestinian, my father's Black. And that had some hardships because it was very hard to be an interracial child in the 70s and 80s and 90s in Chicago. I had some identity issues, grew up most of my life without a father, so I had father issues and just all kinds of things. And so I wrote a book on inner healing, and I'm going to take you through that journey of inner healing. Inner healing is not just a one and done. It's like you don't just go to a counselor and then boom, now you're cured. But inner healing is actually a very intense journey that goes on, and there's layers to it, and you get re-triggered, and life happens, and circumstances and disappointments and all kinds of things happen that just kind of keep you on that journey where you have to constantly go through this healing and this discovering of yourself, discovering who God created you to be, discovering the big picture and His purpose and plan for your life. So anyway, I'm going to take you on that journey of inner healing. I wrote a book about it, so that will be available on my website and in bookstores to purchase that. And the other book I wrote is Navigating and Understanding the Dream Realm. I'm excited to release all 3 of these books to you. I've been a dreamer since I was a little girl, but when I became a born-again Christian in 1993, I think I was 21 years old, or about to be 21 years old. And I just discovered that one of the main ways that God spoke to me frequently and revealed things that I didn't know, revelatory dreams, insight, things that were going to happen, warnings, all of these things, it's like He would show me stuff in dreams. And so a lot of us are dreamers, but many of us forget our dreams, or we think that they're silly dreams, or they're pizza dreams, or we don't pay attention to them. We don't really know what they mean, what God is trying to speak to us, what message He's trying to get across. And so in my book, I help you to learn how to actually interpret your dreams. And so these are exciting journeys that we're going to be on. But for today, I am going to read just a journal entry that I wrote January of this year. But let me go back a little bit. I was married for 15 years. It was a very toxic marriage. Even though I prayed and fasted and asked God if this is what He wanted, and my ex-husband prayed and fasted, we kept getting yes, yes, yes. Because to tell you the truth, we were both willing to go our separate ways, because we're like, God, if you have someone better, whatever your will is, we don't want our will, we really want your will. And so we were yielded to that. But unfortunately, we obeyed God, but it still turned out to be a very hurtful, toxic marriage. And so after 15 years of being in that, I finally got the courage to break free. And one of the ways that I got courage to break free Because literally, you know, God told me to marry this man. He even sent an angel to me in college that told me to marry him and to, you know, not let him go or hold on to him or something along those lines. And so I, even though it was miserable and it was hard, I was just like, well, God told me to marry him. I want God's plan. I'm just going to have to suffer through it and power through it and just keep fasting and praying and hoping and praying that it would change, but to no avail. And so I'm sharing all this with you, not so it could be all about Monica, because, you know, who I am, you know, I'm just a small little piece in God's big puzzle. And so I'm only sharing it with you because many of you have been through toxic, abusive relationships, marriages, and it's left you confused and you're just trying to hold on, you're trying to keep going. And so I'm just sharing that with you to just give you part of my journey and to help you get through your journey. And so anyway, so one of the things that helped me break free from this very toxic relationship was my daughter at the time, my oldest daughter. She was 12 and she was like, Mom, you're miserable. Do you want to be miserable for the next 20 years? And I was like, you know, because I'm thinking to myself, you know, we're praying, we're going to church, we're reading the word, we had Bible study groups and prayer meetings at our house, and, you know, we were assistant pastors at one point, and we were real careful to not like argue and let our kids know what was going on in our personal lives. And so I thought we were doing a good job of just kind of faking the funk and everything. But, you know, children have this really sharp gift of discernment. It's like they sense and feel everything. And so my 12-year-old knew that I was miserable, and she told me to get a divorce and that I could actually get married to someone else and be happy. And I was like, light bulb, because literally, like I said, you know, I thought I'm in this till death do us part. I have to stay. I just have to suffer through it. But when she pointed out to me that I was miserable, helped me realize that it was a very toxic, abusive marriage. It wasn't a loving, honoring marriage, and that God could actually bless me with another marriage where I could actually be happy. I was just like, anyway, so I was like, wow. So anyway, that was one of the things that led me to the courage to actually tell my ex-husband that I wanted a divorce. And so, of course, he was like, well, we could go to counseling, and no, I don't want a divorce, and blah, blah, blah. You know, I was like, but mind you, we've done counseling. I tried everything possible to make this marriage work. I fasted, I prayed, we went through counseling. I took classes on how to be a good wife, how to be a better wife, how to pray for your husband. I just really felt like I did everything to be this good wife and this Christian wife that God instructed me to be. But no matter what I did, it was still very toxic and very harmful to me and my children. So anyway, so I broke away from that in August of 2011. And so after that point, you know, we get a divorce. Now I'm a single mother of 3 children. And I know many of you can relate to my story. There's plenty of single mothers, whether you've been married or not, where the burden just falls completely on you of taking care of the children, paying the bills, working, just doing whatever you could to make ends meet. And so that was my situation. But throughout those years from 2011 all the way up until now, 2024, God kept telling me and showing me, you're gonna get remarried, you know, your husband is out there, he's in another state. You know, I had all these different instructions and little bits and pieces and nuggets of things where it's like I knew my husband to be wasn't in Chicago. God told me a few times very clearly that he lived in another state and that I was gonna move away there and get remarried, and that God had someone else for me, that my love story wasn't over, my purpose wasn't over, you know, my ministry wasn't over, what God had for me and my children wasn't over. And so for all these years, I'm, you know, believing and praying and being like, okay, God, is this one it? Is this it? You know, when's it gonna happen? And, you know, we just tend to get impatient at times. And even though I was trying to be patient in 13 years now, I still had moments of weakness and impatience. And so I'm going to read a poem that I wrote, just kind of explaining where I am and what this process is like and how difficult it has been. But knowing that God is with you and with me every step of the way, no matter how hard it looks, no matter how bleak, no matter how lonely and confused, it's like he still has a plan. We don't know the how, we don't know the when, we don't know the who, we don't know the details. We might just have little bits and pieces, little nuggets that God shows us in dreams, that God speaks to us through prophets or prophetic words or words of knowledge. Through his word, coming alive to us. It's like he speaks to us in a variety of ways, through angels at times, through visions, through dreams. I mean, there's just so many ways that God speaks. And so we hold on to those bits and pieces, but again, we don't know how it's all gonna come to pass. So I'm gonna read this to you, and I will continue to come onto my page. I appreciate you subscribing to Grace for Grace. Continue to join me, because I will be delving into my inner healing book, taking you through that process. And then for a much more thorough, in-depth teaching, of course, you can purchase the book when it's available. But for now, I'm going to read you a poem that I wrote in my journal, January 9th of 2024. I'm just going to read this to you, so bear with me. It's called, What's Wrong with You, Monica? What's wrong with you, Monica? Why so grumpy and feeling so frumpy? Frustration has been my portion, especially since it's a new year and I'm still hoping. I'm hoping, praying, and waiting, and it has been my story for as long as I can remember. I realize that my love tank and my fun tank have been empty for as long as I can remember. What is fun? What brings me joy? I have an idea, but it's hard to reminisce on good times. I know that I'm loved by my maker, but I've never known the love of a father, a brother, or even a mate. I've been uncovered all my life, making me feel so vulnerable, so unsafe, trying to race to keep my head afloat. This can't be the life that God had in mind. I wonder so many times why I've been dealt this hand. Being a single parent and a single woman for 12 years, I steadily fight off feelings of loneliness, abandonment, and disappointment. Even when I think back to my 15 years of married life, I was trying to survive. No fun, no joy, only pain, disdain for my spouse, who couldn't love me right since he was first in his sight. I cried, I prayed, and tried with all my might, to no avail, when I finally failed and gave up on the hope of ever making it work. A toxic marriage, you see. So my only way was out. I escaped my prison and started to risen in courage, risen in hope of a better tomorrow. Where I could be loved and protected, no longer left to the elements, exposed in this cold world with no covering, feeling unsafe, having no choice but to use my voice and fake being a strong Black woman. I know it's a cliche, and it wasn't the way that I hoped it would be. Fighting off feelings of envy, seeing other godly women that looked like they were winning, with a loving, supportive husband and a provider, a safe covering, a beautiful home, money in the bank, and vacations and more. I only hoped and prayed that one day that would be my portion too. Going through the motion of trying to survive while I hold on to God and I cry deep inside. I know I'm supposed to be grateful for my blessings. I try to stay positive, encourage others, and keep a smile on my face. When will it get better? When will I have fun? When will I have reciprocated love, healing love, joyful love? When will my fun tank and love tank be filled? I ask myself, what is fun? For me, I believe that it's traveling, dancing, and styling. It's creating and helping others while I'm being me. One day, I hope to be free. Thank you so much for joining me. I pray that if you can identify with where I am as a mother, as a single person, as a single mother, as a fatherless adult, fatherless child, that God would just begin to do a work of healing in your heart, and that you will experience the joy that you hope for and the love that you hope for and that you well deserve. I love you and I bless you, and thank you so much for joining me on Grace for Grace. Till next time. Bye-bye.